Welcome back to Washington Watch. I'm your host, Tony Perkins. So good to have you with us. The website, TonyPerkins.com. If you're on Parler, it's at T. Perkins. And let me remind you tonight, Pray Vote Stand, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, PrayVoteStand.org. Join us. We'll have Eric McTaxis will be with me. Michelle Bachmann will be joining me. And Congressman Jody Hice of Georgia will be with us praying over what is unfolding in our country today. Again, that's tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, PrayVoteStand.org. Join us. Speaking of what's unfolding, you probably heard a lot in the news about Dominion Voting Systems, a company out of Colorado, that operates in about 28 states. One state it's not operating in is the state of Texas. Dr. Jim Sneeringer is an expert in electronic data communication systems. He's also the co-founder of iVoterGuide and a member of iVoterGuide's board of directors. And the state of Texas, in part because of his examination and others, took a pass on the system, and he joins us now to explain why. Dr. Sneeringer, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tony. I'm happy to be here.
Now, first off, tell our folks what iVoterGuide is.
Well, iVoterGuide is a nationwide voter guide that lets you put in your address and find out who you can vote for, and then they'll show you a rating of conservative or liberal, and then if you click on that person, you can drill down and see the information that was gathered. So there's 30,000 hours worth of information gathering that went into iVoterGuide this cycle. And there are about 3.5 million people using the data to vote. And we're happy to be FRC's voter guide provider.
Yeah, I was going to say that probably a lot of our listeners know what iVoterGuide is because we promoted it heavily during the election, but I wanted to make the connection for them with you. But you also wore another hat, and that was the voting system examination of Dominion Voting Systems. And Texas took a pass on using this. You were, correct me if I'm wrong, but were you designated by the Attorney General to do the review of the system?
I was one of a group of 5 people that were designated by the various Secretary of State and the Attorney General to review the system, combination of attorneys and techies.
So why did Texas pass on using Dominion voting systems?
Well, there were a number of reasons. I would say one of the biggest one was that the software was just incredibly difficult to to install. Mm-hmm. So we watched for about 8 hours while people who work for Dominion tried to go through the 500 steps that are required to install their software. And they, about noon, they gave up. And I guess it turned out they'd skipped one step, and it took them the rest of the afternoon to recover.
Now, this was the people that actually were selling the systems?
Yes. So at least they were representatives of Dominion that were sent to the state of Texas to demonstrate the system to the Secretary of State and the people who are authorized to evaluate the voting systems.
Well, that would sure be a warning sign to me if the very people who have put the systems together and are selling them have a hard time installing the software. That would suggest to me that this is not something the average person could do then.
Yes, it's not something the average person could do. And this is the second time that we declined to certify this equipment.
Were there any other vulnerabilities besides the difficulty of installing the software? Any other vulnerabilities, errors that might not be caught, or other things that raised concerns?
Well, there were other concerns. There were some messages that were difficult to understand. There was one that said, tell people they were casting their vote when they were not. There's a USB port, a universal serial port that was opened And in other words, it was accessible to a voter. And one of the examiners plugged his phone into it, and it started reading files off his mobile phone.
Wow.
So that's a good idea. These systems are supposed to be sort of sealed so that they can't be affected. No, it didn't actually, cause any mistakes or votes or anything, but it sure was a red flag.
Now, in reading one of the reports, I saw where when you have, I would assume like a straight party vote, I guess that would be like in a primary, there were some issues that came up.
Yes, there were some issues that came up, and it had to do with if you voted straight party and then you wanted to cross over on one candidate, it didn't work the way that was required by state law. The state of Texas discontinued straight party voting as of the first of the year, so that's no longer relevant. But it was a problem that we recognized at the time.
So the Texas taking a pass on this, was any other states that you're aware of that after reviewing and examining the Dominion voting systems also decided not to use them?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think, and I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Well, it certainly should turn some heads that some states, at least Texas, is not using, one of the largest states in the country. Jim, thanks so much for joining us. Great to talk with you, and thanks for the great work on iVoterGuide. Great resource. Very thankful to partner with you guys in making that information available to people.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, Dr. Jim Sneeringer. All right, when we come back, warning, 5 evil things that Joe Biden plans to do, at least 5. Terry Jeffrey, editor-in-chief of CNS News, is here next to talk about that. I mean, I know we're looking in the rearview mirror. This election's not quite over. We're still in the midst of it, but we got to look at what's straight ahead, and there are warning signs of what a Biden-Harris administration will be pushing day one. Terry Jeffrey is here next. Don't go away.